r/ask Reddit. Reddit, what is the fastest way you've seen a room full of happy people turn real ugly and sour? What happened? When it was announced our community bank was being acquired by Wells Fargo and 85% of people were going to lose their jobs. Edit. The announcement was made during the end of year managers meeting where bonuses, Christmas party festivities, etc. were discussed. No bonuses. No Christmas party. Most people just got severance for the holidays. They announced that in another 30 minutes there would be another announcement about the status of our delayed flight. Edit. I am so sorry for all you poor souls who have dealt with long delays. My heart goes out to you. And yes, technically this doesn't fit because some people were already unhappy. But this was the tipping point for most at the airport that day. Brazilians watching the World Cup. It wasn't a room. It was a bus full of 8th graders, and it was when, while returning from the 8th grade trip, we came upon the scene of one of the student's brother's murder. He was coming to pick her up from the trip when he was shot in a drive-by. Worst night of my life. House party, everyone high as fuck. Having a great time. Find out one of our friends has hung himself. That was nasty. Outdoor wedding. Everyone was having an amazing time. Around midnight the hail came. Golf ball plus hail. I thought it was funny until everything started breaking. I was volunteering at a dance at a teen center. Small town. Everyone knows everyone. Night is going great. Then we get a call that one of our friends was killed in a gang-related drive-by while getting a soda at a Sonic drive-in. Stray bullet. Wasn't even intended for him. Died in his girlfriend's arms. It wasn't so much that things turned ugly and sour, but the mood in the place did a 180. We turned the music off and just sat around, stunned. Halfway through a wedding reception. Lots of booze. Band leader asks crowd to find out which man at their table has the nearest birthday. Okay. Accomplished. Then, the band leader says, each guy, give the flower centerpiece to the prettiest girl at the table. 11 other guys get it right. And give it to their girl. The guy at our table, fairly inebriated, doesn't give it to his wife. He gives it to the prettiest girl at the table. Holy shit. The air got sucked out of the room. The wife is steaming. She looks ready to grab the vase and smash him in the face with it. The other, less pretty girls are fuming. The girl with the flowers has no idea what to do. But her boyfriend wants to kick the husband's ass. The rest of us are either horror-stricken or nervously laughing. We know we are all gonna hear it. The tables nearby have heard most of it. And the whispering spreads. The band starts to play. And the wife takes the opportunity to get louder. Before storming out. The party was over. He was just doing what he was told. Poor bastard. Outside in line at the WAMU Theater in Seattle. Me and about 1,200 people were waiting in line for about 90 minutes past when the doors should have been open. It was about 45 degrees outside in October. It was the second night of the festival and the whole crowd went from excited 90 minutes prior to absolute fucking anger once the crew walked outside and said show is cancelled tonight. People lost their shit not only because it was cancelled but because they macked us wait outside for so fucking long when they could have told us at noon. A kid had died the night before at the show, so the crew easily could have made the executive decision way earlier than they did. The mood went from 100-0 pretty damn quickly. Tell a successful branch that their factory is closing. Why after Vanilla Ice's popularity, he played some shows at small bar type venues. My friends and I decided to go. As a joke. The atmosphere in the place was really fun. And everybody was having an unusually awesome time. Vanilla Ice didn't go on when announced, and then the DJ took to the mic to announce that he had no showed. The place instantly went into riot mode. Yelling, cursing, pushing and shoving, and then people started throwing beer bottles and breaking furniture. All the mirrors in the place got broken. And the DJ had to run out through the back door. Good times to a full-on riot in under a minute. Over Vanilla Ice. I still don't understand. One day at work we had an hour meeting followed by a planned pizza party as a reward for meeting some safety goal. They'd been telling us all week not to worry about food because they were getting pizza. Well, after the meeting we're sitting around waiting for the pizza to get there when our boss comes in and tells us there was a failure of communication and no one actually ordered the pizza. If you want to see 50 factory workers go from excited to murder ready in less than a second, that's what you tell them. That's an easy one. Thanksgiving dinner. Every year. Topic of politics. Edit. Dogmatism is gross no matter which side it comes from. Please don't take this comment as a pro anyone anything. My brother's birthday party. He had recently gotten engaged. My aunt and the loos commented to another relative that it was shame he hadn't found a nice policewoman. Brother is a policeman. His now wife's dad had just finished a long prison sentence to being a gangster and blamed her for his not being promoted in the distant future. Her friends overheard and it all kicked off. Both families waded in. It took a dozen off-duty policemen to separate everyone. They got married in Las Vegas and didn't invite anyone. Hosted a Super Bowl party in Seattle in 2015. New Year's Eve party at someone's house. Stupid redneck fucktard sets off an M80 in the doorway. 50 people instantly went deaf from the blast being channeled into the small house. The party was over in about 5 minutes and everyone left. My right ear barely hears anything anymore thanks to that bastard. April Fool's Day 2009. Everyone at the dealership I was working at gets called into the shop for an important meeting. We all assume it's going to be something silly. The owner informs us that the dealership has gone out of business effective immediately and for everyone to pack up their stuff and wait to be escorted out of the building. We just stood there waiting for someone to shout April Fools. It never happened and the building stands empty to this day. My 8th grade class cheered when an announcement came on telling us that school was being let out early. Then we were told why. It was the 9th of November 2001. Group of friends. Everyone's having some drinks and laughing and generally enjoying the night. Then one guy gets too drunk. He starts loudly telling another guy in the group all about how he fucked the girl that his friend has a crush on. Positions. What she looked like. Just uncomfortable detail. The friend looks heartbroken and asks him to stop. And he does, briefly. Then comes back with more description. Hysterically laughing at the other guy's pain. The whole room was tense and quiet except for Drunky McDrunkface going on and on about laying into a girl that his friend is in love with. Hanging out with a bunch of friends, relaxing, having a few drinks. When one person decides to make a statement how he feels that rape victims are at fault because the only people who get raped are sluts. We don't talk to him anymore. At a 21st birthday party several years ago. Having a big house party. Music blaring. Drugs and alcohol in abundance. Good times being had by all. Then some dudes driving by hear the noise and decide to crash the party. While trying to be nice and kick them out politely. One of them says, "You can't kick us out," and flashes his gun. Never seen a party go from full-blown fun to where is everyone so quickly. Someone called the cops and the arseholes took off. We were at a birthday party for one of our friends. He was a biker and he had a bunch of his biker friends over. One of my husband's other friends, not a biker, was drunk and kept touching my butt. I told him not to touch me or I would drop him. His last time. I walked by and he slapped my butt really hard. I swung around and punched him in the face. Because it was a narrow walkway. His head hit the wall. I broke his nose and it cracked his 2 front teeth. Found out later the next day. He had shitty teeth so it didn't take much to break them. The party went dead. It got really quiet. I yelled at him and told him not to fucking touch me ever again. Of course my husband was upstairs taking a dump and missed the whole thing. He came downstairs and I told him we're leaving. All the bikers went over to this guy and started yelling at him about disrespecting other people's women. And stuff about ruining a good time. I'm not sure what happened after that, but we left. No one ever hung out with that guy again. His own brother was part of our group of friends and he never invited him anymore. In the spring of 1999 I went to a film festival that debuted a documentary about the gothic subculture called Sex, Death and Eyeliner. It was made by one of the guys who made Trekkies and was very similar to that movie. It poked fun at the lunatic fringe elements of the subculture. But overall it was pretty respectful and everyone in attendance, mostly a toned down group of goths, enjoyed it. At the end of the film the producer did a Q&A. And during it mentioned that he was having a difficult time trying to sell it to the right people. The Columbine massacre had happened just a few weeks earlier and for a while the media was trying to portray the shooters as goths. A lot of companies were interested in buying it. And the producer was very concerned about not letting it get into the hands of someone who would try to portray goths negatively. The final question of the Q&A was from a guy who went off on a tirade defending the shooters of Columbine and explaining how he understood how they felt and why they did what they did. The entire room went from laughing and feeling very good to overwhelmingly pissed off at this guy and booing at him. Completely killed the mood of the evening. Was at a bar with my GF and a bunch of her work friends. Place was packed and everyone is in a pretty good mood. Dude at the table next to her was playing with some girl's keys and pushed what he thought was the on button to a small flashlight. In reality, it was a small can of mace that he ended up spraying into the air. Cleared out the whole bar with everyone coughing and crying. I was in the subway with my brother and this old homeless guy was sitting there, asleep. His dentures started falling off his mouth. All the passengers close by were chuckling and laughing at the old man and plus that he smelled bad. That lasted for a while. I was young and too shy to do anything. My brother and I tried to wake him up nearing the terminus. Didn't move nor breathing. Checked his pulse and nothing. Guy was dead for a while. From laughs to dread feeling. We left the subway after alerting the security and staff. We were sitting at the adult table eating our Easter brunch in the house of my ultra-religious brother's family. We were all laughing and recalling funny stories about relatives long gone and after a sudden lapse in the laughter, the room became dead silent when my son at the children's table screamed to his cousin, "There's no proof of God being real." Easter was pretty much over at that point. Dishes were cleared, cleaned and we sulked out without much eye contact. Bars closed. We were all called into a meeting. Rumor was that because we had had such a great year we would all be getting an extra bonus. Excitement ensued as bonuses were a rarity. The manager of the store clears his throat and a hush falls over everyone. Then he says the words we all should have known was coming. "We've been lying to you. It's been a terrible year. We're so far in the red with no choice but to close shop. Tonight. You're all let go as of right now. Your final paychecks will be mailed to you. Do not come into work tomorrow." I turned in my keys and got out of there. There were some folks who had been there for close to 20 years who were blindsided by that. My family was playing apples to apples on Thanksgiving one year. Everyone was having fun until my cousin started crying and pointing at the living room television. Grandpa was watching porn on the television just 20 feet from a room full of children. Happy Thanksgiving. Is an airplane a room? Because I was stuck on a red eye from Lax to Indianapolis with a screaming 3-year-old whose mother gave no shits. Over time people got so agitated they actually confronted the mother. It was Delta and every single headrest had a monitor in it that had movies, games, and more. The woman simply gave no shits and literally ignored anyone who spoke to her. High school. 2001. Everyone was laughing and making jokes about how stupid someone would have to be to accidentally fly a plane into a building. Teacher turned on the TV at the exact moment the second plane flew into the tower on ABC News. Not sure if that counts as being ugly and sour. But definitely changed the mood in the room from joking to we're going to hell. On Amazon you can buy a pump spray that smells like someone ate a week's worth of Thai food and shit on the floor. So a guy brings one of those to work. Sprays it a few times. Building management got involved because people were sure there was a dead body in the HVAC unit or something. Was at a neighbor's housewarming party once when some of the children thought it would be a good idea to introduce the family's guinea pig to the pit bull from down the way. The couple hosting the party got into a fight with each other in front of everyone, so much so that she slapped one side of his face. He then expected guests to take sides. It ruined everything. People left. Every year my school holds a Young Musician of the Year competition to determine who is the best musician at the school, obviously. When I was younger I attended fairly regularly, mainly out of laziness because it meant I got a ride home. One particular afternoon it was the turn of the vocalists. and my friend and I were sat with some soda ready to watch this terrified year 7 girl sing. She's clearly petrified. And around halfway through the song I decide to take a swig of my Coke. Bad idea. It goes down wrong and I cough choke in such a manner that it seems, to the rest of the room, that this douchebag 14-year-old is cracking up at this nervous little girl. Needless to say I left abruptly after being glared at by 200 people. Christmas night. The local punk bar had one of those Christmas Carol punk cover concerts. We had some cake. Got smashed. Etc. As small communities are wont to do. The vocalist was feeling a bit queasy so he went outside. And had a heart attack on the steps. We had to wait inside the bar during CPR. And after 2 hours we were allowed to leave. Passing by his dead body on the way out. Well. It was the gathering after my grandfather's funeral. So not a happy occasion. But we were trying our best to be as chin up and remembering the good times as possible. My brother, quite innocently, asked when there would be a reading of his will, which seemed pretty rudimentary, since he lived out of town, etc. My aunt gave him a steely cold stare and said there will be no reading of the will. I'm the sole heir. Her husband, my uncle, came up behind her and added, seems like you need to get yourself a lawyer, buddy. What ensued was a fit of screaming and accusations and my brother, father and I leaving and never talking to our aunt and uncle ever again. Death's a bitch. When Kevin Durant joined the Warriors, everyone seemed pretty morbid. Room. Crammed uni auditorium with like 70 people. Reason. A really loud and rancid beer and Asian food chart. Yes. He specified that later on, from one of the constantly half-drunk cool guys in the back row. It was apocalyptic. People started dry heaving. Leaving the room. Cussing him out loudly. Even the professor, a stern older gentleman who usually wouldn't even blink in the face of death himself, got rather upset. Glorious to witness. Aside from the foul stench of course. Oh, and one time in a bar around here 2 rivaling groups of metalheads, 10-15 people each, brawled over which band has the better growling vocals. But that was over in like 20 minutes and not that noteworthy overall. In the elevator of Grant South at Northern Illinois University. This was a 12-story college dormitory with incredibly slow elevators. Folks who lived on the top floor would sometimes have to wait 20-30 minutes to get all the way to the lobby for dinner. The unspoken rule was, if you lived below the 5th floor, just take the damn stairs. So after the 5th floor stop, with the elevator car jammed like a Tokyo subway at rush hour, the mood would pick up noticeably. Next stop, lobby. But nobody told that unspoken rule to the deaf students who all lived on the 3rd floor. They'd get on. And everybody would silently hate on them so hard. One time, I heard a guy whisper in the back of the car, I guess the stairs must be broken. I turned around and said in normal voice, why are you whispering? They're deaf. And then somehow, I could feel all the hate transferring onto me. People are weird. My sister's wedding. It was a small backyard wedding in Winnipeg and most of the family flew in the morning of. My sister did not want bridesmaids, so after I helped her in her dress I went and had a seat in the backyard and waited like everyone else for everything to start. Music and the husband-to-be walks down the aisle and the justice of the peace is at the front and we all just wait and wait and wait some more. Someone finally ran into the house to see WTF was going on and found a Dear John note, and my dear sister had fled the wedding. In about 5 minutes flat it turned into a yelling match on what a piece of shit my sister was, and my dad and I looked at each other and also fled the scene. The groom himself was so mad he was throwing chairs and just screaming like an ape super strange, and I could not get out of there fast enough. My sister ended up going on a 4-month bender of drugs and alcohol. We have never talked about the time she almost got married. At the zoo. Cute gorilla chilling right next to the glass. Literally a foot from a small group of folks. From little kids to grandparents. Everyone was taking photos. It was fantastic. Then the gorilla reached just out of our vision. And its hand came back with a warm green glop of gorilla poop. Oohs and ahs turned instantly to groans of disgust. And nervous laughter. And then. The gorilla ate it. Just shoved the whole thing in its grinning mouth. People were gagging. Kids were screaming. A couple crazed people were laughing uproariously. I was taking a video when it happened using Snapchat. This was legitimately my first snap. My only regret is that I didn't know how to download yet. So that video is now lost in the sands of time. But that memory will always have a place in my heart. Thank you. Franklin Park Zoo. Thank you. Someone yelled bingo. Was at a wedding once and the groom was doing his speech. Sounded like it was coming to an end. Throughout the whole thing a massive screen was showing happy pictures of the couple. People were smiling and laughing at the jokes. Then he gets to the end and says, most of all thanks to my best man and my new beautiful wife for teaching me a life lesson. He looks over to his best man and winks then to his wife with a cringy smile. Everyone is sitting on the edge of their seats waiting to hear what will come next. Jen. You are a real beauty and the kindest person I know blah blah blah. He turns to his best man. Congratulations Dan on scoring so big. See Dan here has been banging my wife for the past 6 months. He skips to the next slide to show a video of Jen and Dan having sex. Literally drops his microphone and leaves. I hadn't a clue what to think. Do or say it was insane. He had another maid who came to pick him up and just left with his beer in hand. At my work we host weddings. A few years ago the groom and one of our waitresses were caught having sex on the 9th green by the maid of honor. The 180-degree turn of drunk happy people to incredibly angry drunk people was insane. The families were screaming at each other. The bride was crying. The mother of the bride was crying. The dad was being held back cause he was gonna kill the groom. Understandable. We ended up calling the police. They came and escorted the groom's family out the door. Some of the smart groom's family took off right away when they heard. It all happened within an hour. We call the incident night putting. During a speech at a church in an uptight conservative town, my father mentioned how people are not having enough orgasms on a regular basis. Some booing and hollering began, which prompted the pastor to immediately walk over to him and direct him away from the altar. Nothing like watching your dad get put in a timeout. Oh, here's another one. Green Day concert in Pittsburgh at the old Mellon Arena, home of the Pens. We here in this side of Pennsylvania are proud of the Pens. Billy Joel looks up at a big banner that says let's go Pens and yells let's go penis. Lol. I've never heard more boost till the Rumble debacle. Did you know that, using bait, you can coax a skunk into a piece of stovepipe? While in that pipe, they can't raise their tail. If they can't raise their tail, they can't spray. However, if you take that stovepipe to a rival community's dance hall when they are having a dance, open the front door and roll the stovepipe into the center of the room, the skunk will exit the stovepipe in an agitated state, now able to raise his tail. He is eminently capable of turning a room full of happy people really ugly, really sour, really quickly. I was in a world gym years ago and the energy on the weight floor was high. People were working out, talking to each other, seemingly having a good time. Then one of the meatheads released a protein fart and immediately cleared the area. People were pissed, including me. I almost threw up. When my friend came clean as a Holocaust denier, we never invited him back after that. Let's check the news. Britain leaves EU. Foking LM8. We were at an annual pub quiz of a gaming and anime convention and they were reading out team names. Firefly should have been cancelled sooner -15 points. The table stands up and does the anti-to pose to a room full of booing nerds. A year later there was a repeat performance with Edward Cullen as a better character than Batman. Laughter yoga class at the senior center. They went from interested to confused and angry when someone told them just to laugh for no reason. I thought it was a hoot. Who are you voting for? Everybody was slowly waking up the morning after a party where we'd all been blitzed beyond belief. Alcohol. Shrooms. There may have been coke. Based on the group. Anyway. Not a party you drive away from. Then someone noticed L's truck was gone. Okay. Maybe he just got up first. Hopefully he was sober. Somebody tried to call him, but it went straight to voicemail. Then L's dad called a best friend and said his truck had been found obliterated on the side of the road and nobody could find L. Went from dude you were so drunk last night to holy shit I hope my friend isn't dead real quick. Girls were crying. People were frantically blowing up his phone. Eventually L called his dad. He was unhurt, but embarrassed and fearful of his consequences. Thankfully it was just a shit in the property damage, his truck and the parked car he hit, no injuries. But he lost his license for a long time. And he didn't come out to parties anymore. During bar trivia the question was what was the biggest fish in Finding Nemo. The answer was blue whale. Whales aren't fish. People started yelling at the guy that whales are mammals. They said it was in the water so it counted as a fish. I asked if the dentist was a fish since he was in the water. That Applebee's just barely avoided a riot that night. Watching fireworks at my friend's cabin with his family. We were all sitting on the deck when a large shell tips over and shoots right at us. Thing goes zipping by our heads. Banks off the cabin. Shoot up in the air and goes off about 20-30 feet over our heads. Really pretty BTW. My buddy comes flying out of the cabin fist pumping screaming OHHHH fuck yay. Everyone's face was kind of spooked. But then turned into laughter. Then we hear a voice whimpering and calling for help. Well, Grandma tried to move out of the way and fell off the deck. And was bleeding on the backside of her head. Found out she broke her hip as well. I was at an anime convention. At an 18+ sort of trivia Pictionary panel where they selected players from the audience and quizzed them. The players were allowed to be totally candid and trash talk a bit. One of the male players told a female player to suck his dick, and when she told him he'd have to return the favor, he let it be known he doesn't give his female partners oral as he felt it was disgusting. Though is happy to receive it. The audience booed him pretty bad. The MC called him a selfish bastard and told him to get off her stage. And selected a new player for the game. Not really happy. But altogether for similar reasons. Recently my mom's friend died of ovarian cancer. She was in her mid-40s maybe? Anyway. After the funeral her family hosted a gathering at her sister's house. Everyone was standing around. Eating. And suddenly the sister is talking a bit louder. She sells that it works bullshit and was talking to a group of people about it. She holds up a can of something called greens and says I tried to get her to take these. But she never would listen. Now she's dead. I don't want to end up that way so I've been doubling up. I have never seen people look so immediately disgusted and enraged all at once. The group literally all turned and walked away and the gathering quickly fell apart. Her daughter swooped in and took her to another room. The worst part is that she is still posting that shit in a similar manner on FB. Despite being told by her kids that it is not cool. She is convinced that it is life-saving tonic. Was at a lesbian couple's apartment at a small boarding school I used to teach at. They were new faculty and were hosting a party. Other new faculty dude comes in and loudly proclaims, "Oh, my wife is practically a lesbian. She loves women. I get along great with dykes." He wasn't the best of hires. Was at a house party during high school. The kid's parents were out of town and everyone was pretty drunk. Said kid pulled his dad's gun out to show it off and it went off, hitting another guy in the head. I was in the other room but it's probably the most insane situation I've ever been in. We ran out of beer. Easter Sunday at grandma's house and my mom no longer identified as a Christian. She made my siblings and I go through this voodoo initiation. But that's different story. Anyways, we're saying grace and at the end where everyone says amen she says some voodoo ruler and everyone gave her the most dirty, sour, distasteful look I've ever seen. I just shook my head because my mom's always had to be the one that stood out. I guess she got her wish. The Red Wedding. Party on a boat with all their colleagues. Everything went just fine till the sales manager and key account manager got into an argument and literally started a fist fight. I was at my cousin's wedding a few years ago. Everything was going great at the reception until another cousin found out that someone who had gotten him fired from a previous job was there as well. The other guy ended up making a scene and talking shit after my cousin tried ignoring him. My cousin's son who is MR didn't like the guy talking to his dad like that and started cussing him out and flipping him off. Turns out the other guy was part of the groom's family. Pub quiz. Everyone was a bit boozed up. Announcer. who was universally hated and considered a massive bellend by everyone, made the controversial call to disallow a debatably correct answer. The answer given by everyone was Jessica Innes, the Olympic athlete from England. But she had gotten married 2 weeks before the quiz, and so her official name was Jessica Innes Hill, which was the only accepted answer. 2 teams actually walked out after shouting abuse at the guy running the quiz, and everyone else booed. Stayed at an anime convention, in a group to save money on the hotel room. 2 people in the group were, shall we say, that couple. The ones that insist they are perfect for one another, but they're always having really ugly fights in front of everyone else and bad mouthing each other when they're apart. I watched a YouTube video of a huge crowd of workers listening to what they thought was going to be a keynote of sorts event, but instead it was an executive telling everyone they were fired and their jobs were going overseas. A leader of this group we had told us to write down certain feelings we had against one another so we could let them go by burning them and start over with each other as friends. We all thought it was a good idea and were happy about it. Our leader decided to do a little plot twist and read them all out loud before burning them. Kick 6. 2013 Alabama vs Auburn football game. Bamers thought they were going to pull off a come from behind win by kicking a 57-yard FG with 1 second left. Bamers have never been accused of being good sportsmen, but so many Bamers absolutely lost their minds. I was at my younger cousin's birthday party and his stepmother was pregnant. Everyone talked about new baby in the family, and then my grandmother says how in 8-10 years we will be talking about how I will have a baby. I told them that I don't want children, and in that moment my grandmother gets this shocked look on her face and everybody looks at me like I am the worst person ever. And the second time was connected with the first story. About 8 months after I went with my family to visit my then 5-month-old cousin, my aunt told me that I will change my mind about children and proceeds to give me my cousin to hold her. Again I said that I don't want children because I want to have fun while I'm young and not take care of somebody. Of course everyone looked shocked and my baby cousin starts crying. After that they still tried to convince me that I should have children when I'm young, and they would always show me pictures and videos of babies, but that stopped. Not a room but a festival. Me and a friend with a guitar joined the camp. Lots of singing. Great atmosphere. Weed was passed around. All of a sudden plainclothes cops. One guy had the whole camp stash in his tent and got taken away. Mood drop if I ever saw one. Edit. BTWs were good people. Not troublemakers or potheads, not that those are inherently bad. But you get my point. Just normal 30 somethings having a good time in their camp. Scott's Tots. Tiebreak in the weekly pub quiz when I was at uni was a theme song, and first to name the show was the winner. One week the song was Who Are You by The Who. My team instantly answered with CSI. Crime Scene Investigation. We were told we were wrong and it was passed on to the other team. They got it right with CSI LAS fucking Vegas. It was the quizmasters last night due to that. Even the bar owners agreed we were right, but the opposition got the 50 quid bar tab. 8 years on I'm still fuming. So, do you think Brexit will lead to us, Scotland, going independent? My girlfriend and a few of our mutual friends were hanging at my place after just having spent a great day at the Ren Fair. We were drinking and reminiscing and just generally having a great time when suddenly my ex shows up at my door trying to convince my current girlfriend that I cheated on her and that she had proof and yada dee da da dee da da. My extended family had a day at the lake. All day was nothing but happiness. Until we started cleaning up. Half of the family were on the lake and decided to play a prank on the rest of us, who were getting ready to go. They sent a voicemail that they were sinking and didn't have life jackets. There were kids on the boat who couldn't swim. My grandpa believed it, and when none of the nearby boat owners would let him borrow one to save his family, he stole a boat and went out to look for them. He of course found them safe and sound. And there was a huge fist fight when everyone got back. Some of them haven't spoken to each other since. And it's been years. House party. Dude gets in a fight with the owner of said house in which party is happening. Everyone likes said owner and the idiot is asked to leave. Idiot comes back about 2 hours later and declares, much more drunk than when he left, that he will fuck everyone and everything up right now. Had never seen 30 dudes beat the shit out of one guy threatening a woman with a bat until then. Woman was the owner. All angry people in the world are at bar trivia. At a birthday party for one of my former friends who proceeded to call his roommate a failure at life. Said he held some deep hatred for another friend. Implied he hoped a tree fell on someone on their drive home. And kicked everyone, very drunk everyone, out of his house more than 40 minutes from where anyone else lived. Happened in a span of 20 minutes or so. Might be too late, but I think it's worth sharing. Not me, but a friend of mine is a drummer for a band performing in a concert in a Basque National Day in Bilbao, I think. They were on tour and traveling a lot, so they got a bit lost mentally due to fatigue, so they weren't sure about the city. All they knew was that it was Spain. So the band comes out and the vocalist shouts Spain. Are you ready? Instantly. A hall of 100 people who were all happy and cheering suddenly go silent. And things start getting thrown. You see, the Basque want independence from Spain and believe that they are their own nation. So this was super offensive. New York about 5-6 years ago. Huge family reunion with about 26 people staying at my grandfather's house. Average temperature for that week was hovering at about 105 degrees F due to a heat bubble. The house only has one window AC unit in an upstairs bedroom. 4 days and the bubble finally breaks as a massive thunderstorm rolls through, bringing the temperature down to the low 90s. We cranked the AC and set up fans to push the air through the house. Everyone was in high spirits until my dad opened a window because it was cooler outside. It went from a dry 90 degrees to 90 degrees with 100% humidity. I live in a smaller town in Kansas and I am Mexican. Family has been here. In this area, mind you, for 100 years. The town is on the interstate with about 20,000 people, not far from the largest town in Case, Wichita. My family and I once went to a barn sale about 30 miles out into the country. Picture. A family of Mexicans walks into a private barn on a farm full of white folks in the middle of Kansas. Complete silence. No eye contact except for the old lady selling antique junk who just glares hatefully. So we cruise the place in the different booths where no one makes conversation. We bought some hot dogs and drinks. Those folks were nice, cause we spent our money. We bought some raw milk which no one had the nerve to drink and we beat it the hell out of there. You would have thought we were an invading horde of rabid ISIS trans Muslims. Folks, this was in 2015. When I was 6, I was invited to a birthday party by a classmate of mine. When I got there I quickly realized I was the only classmate to attend. Everyone else was from her family. Parents, uncles, aunts, cousins, grandparents, etc. When the time comes for cake, all the kids are seated around a table in a horseshoe shape. We're all given a slice of cake. Before eating, we sing happy birthday to the birthday girl. Right after the song ends, her friend grabs her from behind the head and shoves her face into her cake slice. The whole room erupts into laughter. Then the birthday girl does the same to her friend. Then someone else does it. One by one, everyone starts to shove their neighbor's face into their cake. I'm on the end of the horse show. No one is on my left. And to my right is the birthday girl's 1-year-old cousin. I shoved his face into the cake and laughed. No one else was laughing. I looked around the room and saw that no one else had cake on their face. Just a look of disgust. TL. Doctor, I hallucinated a cake fight and assaulted a baby. Working in the network operations center doing our daily tasks. Everyone was actually in a good mood for once. And then it hit. The smell of rotting asshole with a hint of dying skunk. Never before had I seen people go from happy as hell to disgusted and mad. It cleared out the room and made some people throw up. We found out later it was the one dude still sitting in that balloon of stink SSGT. Son of a bitch was just laughing his head off. TL. DR. Man blasts ass and laughs as everyone tries to leave the area. Probably this. At a friend's funeral who had committed suicide. Everyone was somber and respectful as the service went on and the clergy talked about heaven and whatnot. The last speaker comes up and says, well, she may not be allowed in heaven because of the suicide and how that's a terrible sin, yada yada yada. A huge portion of the family starts sobbing uncontrollably and some outright walk out. Those that stayed were super angry and began to threaten the speaker. He had to be escorted from the funeral home by security. Edit. By security I mean employees of the funeral home, not the armed guards at clubs. From what I understand of this guy, he was trying to discourage copycat suicides by not glorifying it and saying my friend was definitely in heaven like it solved all her problems. Certainly not the best way to go about it. If you want to get nothing in return, you can like and join my Discord. There is a link in the description.